You there, you! I command you to stop whatever you're doing! It's time for the Clash Royale League! Today, in the European region, two teams who cannot afford another loss in the standings. Misfits Gaming arrives to battle fresh off their first CRL victory. But can that one guy deliver another? Or will Low-Eye, Flobby, and 5th-ranked SK Gaming put themselves back in the playoff picture? Well, let's find out in the arena!
Hello and welcome to Clash Royale League. I'm Rich Slayton. Sitting with me is Andrew Guy as we move through Week 5. A big game, a big setting here. A lot riding on these next few matches for all the teams we're going to see today.
Yeah, absolutely. As we hop in the standings, you see with a win today, SK Gaming will actually be tied for second place. So this is a huge, huge match for them. And then Misfits, coming off their very first win, want to start that momentum. They're starting to build their confidence. Getting that second win today will be huge for Team Misfits.
Later today, a gargantuan matchup between Team Liquid and Team Queso. Queso, of course, undefeated. Liquid being one of those squads that has not quite met expectations. But right now, we have, as we said, SK Gaming facing off against Misfits.
Yeah, we hop into the roster here of Misfits, and we see Drege, Jose LC, that one guy, and Pepe. And Jose hasn't been seen a lot here in CRL, so I'm really interested to see what he's going to bring to the table and where he fits into their lineup today. And, of course, SK Gaming on the other side. We got Low-Eye, Morton, Flobby, and Matt01. Flobby coming into the lineup. He's been shown in 2v2 and in 1v1. Very curious to see what he does today as well.
SK Gaming possibly making some changes in their lineup. We'll see what they have in store. Their manager, Ricardo Gonzalez, also known as KV, is standing by with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. KV, you've made a lot of changes to your lineup in the past. I mean, Mithja isn't even on the active roster today, so what's the reason for all those changes?
I think the reason for the changes is to actually show to each other that we have the trust. You know, there's no team without teamwork. And I think when we get to the point where we can actually switch up and change all the time and everyone can play and participate and show what they got to each other, I think it goes a long way to feel that we have a team connection, and it's great for me to know that I can rely on all of them.
Yeah, that team spirit. So Misfits today, they're feeling very confident, very prepared specifically to beat SK Gaming. And, you know, they're coming off of a win from Team Liquid. Hey, waving that one guy. So my question to you is, are you feeling confident? Are you feeling prepared? Are you going to win today?
Yeah. I know that they're confident. They beat a great team that with Team Liquid. But I know that overconfidence has downfalls. And what we're doing today is be in our game, and we don't care about what they do. We just do what we have to do. What they do, it's irrelevant because I know, trusting in ourselves, I know we got what it takes, so it's up to them to show up and step up.
All right, we'll see today. Back to you guys.
Ricardo Gonzalez, confident, very smart, a fantastic manager, and a big part of that is getting your teams prepared in the right mindset. So let's hear how these managers get their teams ready to go to battle inside the war rooms.
Well, okay, guys. Well, so now we're gonna win this match. First of all, in 2v2, they banned what we thought Infernal Dragon. As we practice Lava is strong, we can start with level Lava and Night Witch and that. Also Spellbite and maybe some Graveyard deck. You got this and you know, you can start with Lava and then swap depend of what they play, maybe to, yeah. Okay.
I just want to take a moment of reflection and remember how we started in the beginning as a team and how we are now as a team and how you feel today. And I just want to say that since we started and how we are now, I'm actually proud of you guys, how we evolved, all the conversations that we had at home, everything that we went through already. And one important thing that I want to remind you is that this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. What is important is consistency. I trust in you guys trust in yourselves, and I know we have it. Got it?
Yep.
Vamos, let's go. 1, 2, 3, SK Gaming!
Some of the best things in life come in tools. I mean, you've got socks and shoes, eyes and ears, bacon and eggs. Well, some even say Clash Royale is best in pairs. Let's put it to the test. Misfits and SK, send your 2v2 titans down the tunnel.
Speaking of pairs, we have a great pair of matches today. Of course, later, Team Queso up against Team Liquid, but right now, SK Gaming facing off with Misfits.
Yeah, Misfits bringing out Drege and Pepe. Not a big surprise there. These two have worked very, very well together. Their record has been medium, lukewarm, if you will, but these guys work great together, and that is the most important thing in 2v2. And of course, Morten, the 2v2 specialist for SK at 4-2, pairing up with Loai again, who showed up last match against Queso, and they actually took the set, and he's 1-0 in 2v2.
Our bans today, Inferno Dragon, kind of common, but here we go. Haven't seen this yet. Maybe some of you are excited. Golem will be making 0 appearances in 2v2, and on behalf of those of you at home, I'm going to give one of these.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting to see how it works with no golems whatsoever.
I mean, I heard those two commentators talking about it in the last match, saying that maybe Golem is something that we should take off the table, so I think it's great that these guys listened.
Yeah, fantastic. Very, very exciting. It's going to be a new meta possibly developing right here in 2v2. In case you didn't catch that, those two commentators Andrew was talking about, that was the two of us.
You know.
So Golem all the way off the table, and that opens up some very interesting options now.
Yeah, I mean, we're so used to seeing, and there's immediately finishing my sentence, the Lava Hound is probably going to be the biggest force to be dealt with here, and you wonder, is that going to be a lot of rockets to take care of the balloons behind it? Are they going to be using Inferno Towers? What is the answer to stop the tanks?
Might there be even a double Lava Hound deck? And of course, some of you have seen over and over again, you know, we've seen what Clone can do most recently here in CRL. Might we see the double Lava Hound, double Mirror, double Clone deck at some point?
I mean, we've definitely seen how effective it's been. You wonder if these guys, with those bans, their opponents would be expecting that. So I'm not sure. And looking at the hands so far, we're not seeing any clone spells, but we are seeing a lot of Lava Hounds.
It is kind of a trick deck. You know, some of those tricks might work only once, but we saw how important that trick was to end a game on our last broadcast on Tuesday. So it can, you know, it could happen. We don't know what will take place here. Inferno Dragon also being out really gives that Lava Hound a lot more to play with.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most exciting things about this inaugural season of CRL. Not only is the meta always changing because of the balance updates, but it's also the first time that 2v2's really been focused on in competitive play. So people getting away with sneaky tricks, like in football they have like the hook and ladder and things like that. You're so used to seeing it because it's been around forever. They don't have that luxury here in CRL.
So now we can see how fast the action is with taking the Golem off the table, the pushes being a little bit more aggressive, and both towers on the right-hand side under heavy damage early in this game.
Yep, and now we're going to go Lava Hound against Lava Hound, maybe even a double from their teammates. Interesting to see what's going to happen here.
Moving into double Elixir time, so the action's already been fast and furious, about to pick up even more.
Great pickup on the miner there, kind of a lucky placement with the Night Witch. And that balloon's still pretty healthy, but probably not going to make it to the tower.
And the placement of that Baby Dragon, not only putting damage on the balloon, but pushing it into range of that Tombstone.
Yeah, really, really great use of their spells right now. And both these teams are playing very, very well.
And separated only by about 100, well, not anymore, now getting much closer. So with that poison, it's going to be Misfits taking a slight lead here. But of course, a poison and a miner gets on the tower on the right-hand side.
You wonder with this Lava Hound if maybe they're going to tornado it to the... no, there's too much coming down the lane. They're going to have to focus on offense. And
Go ahead.
I was going to say, they might not have enough. They don't have a spell in hand to take care of it. The balloon probably won't get there in time. I believe SK is going to get away with this one.
It looked like we had a tower trade situation, but Misfits could not cycle back to a big spell quickly enough, so game number 1 ends very close, but those last few seconds breathing easy were Morten and Loai.
Yeah, and you see this poison coming in. It looks like Misfits might be able to do a tower trade here, but SK really does a great job getting that miner in after the Lava Hound's tanking the Princess Tower, and it's really just that miner chipping away the help of the poison, and you see the Fireball does come back into the hands of the Misfits, but they're just not there in time, Rich.
Just not there quickly enough. We've seen that so many times here, especially in 2v2. You know, and that happens to everybody. You think that you're in range, and then as you start playing some defense, suddenly you realize that what you need isn't in your hand, and you watch those seconds tick away, and you go, oh my gosh, I'm about to lose 28, I'm about to lose 30 trophies. What just happened?
Yeah, you're just watching your impending doom as the clock ticked down, and let's see if they can bring it back in 2v2.
Let's go. Okay, I'll just rotate.
Game number 2 underway. Again, SK's Morton and Low at the top of your screen. Misfits, Pepe, and Reggae at the bottom.
Interesting snowball there to start off. Sorry to cut you off, Rich. They just snowballed the Princess Tower.
Well, you know, it could very simply just be a cycle move early on. You know, get what they want in their hands. There has been some discussion about whether or not starting hand is more or less critical in 2v2 than it is 1v1.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a ton of spells in your hand or no spells in your hand to respond, it can definitely put you at a disadvantage. We've seen that matchup isn't as big of a play or a factor in 2v2, but starting hand can really, really leave you at a disadvantage. And now we're seeing a lot of damage coming into Misfits Tower.
Lightning has become such a huge part of 2v2 ever since, again, that 5% damage buff. A lot of players realizing that it can do so much work in those important moments.
Yeah, and it does a great job against those weaker buildings and weaker range DPS cards.
So Pepe and Reggae at the bottom. Pepe, not just a Clash competitor, played basketball for 10 years. His favorite player was Lakers star Kobe Bryant.
Oh, love me some Kobe.
He's taken a year break right now, or at least a few months break from university in Naples at Federico II, where he's studying to be a computer engineer.
You see the giant skeleton here, probably going to get played here at the river or very soon. Okay, it's going to play it in the back. And now I'm very curious to see Misfits using this giant skeleton as their win condition against a air-heavy deck. 2 air-heavy decks.
Yeah, getting the giant skeleton to tower, very difficult in all situations, although we have seen some teams use spells and support to clear the way out and just get it right in range. And that baby dragon may be doing not quite enough, but that might be the idea they're going for.
Yeah, that was an interesting lightning there. It's going to get some damage on the tower here. Speaking with Misfits before the match, they were talking about how in their 2v2, their idea of the best communication is very, very little communication. You use keywords and key phrases, and you only speak when necessary, which is different than a lot of other teams' approaches when they think that they should be saying everything that's happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that are heavy chatter teams, but we've seen in general that both these teams tend to be a little bit more reserved.
Yeah, more reserved, and also they don't have a true play caller for their 2v2. It's more so whoever feels they need to say something in the moment will, but for the most part, let's just keep it calm, cool, quiet, and collected.
SK sneaking through, and that miner not getting picked up by the Valkyrie. So at this point, just with some strong defense, you got to think SK has this 2v2 wrapped up.
Yeah, and Loai here really, really doing a great job at 2v2. Wasn't used a lot. A missed snowball there to get the miner off the tower, and Misfits is going to feel that.
You know, you got to think that even with the missed snowball, the snowball hitting might have bought them some more time.
Yeah.
But at that point, it really seemed like SK Gaming had this thing all tied up.
Yeah, I don't know if it was matchup or what it was, but really SK didn't ever feel like they were at a disadvantage or even playing from behind throughout this entire set. And maybe it's just the way that they put together these Lava Hound pushes. You see the giant skeleton coming down, and this is really the best push that Misfits put together, excuse me.
So you see the Lightning taking care of a lot of that damage, and all this distraction happening, the defense taking place up at the bridge, and it's the miner that sneaks through and doesn't get picked up that kind of put the nail in the coffin for Misfits.
We've seen the miner be so effective in 2v2. Being able to get that direct damage on the tower that isn't a spell that demands a response has been one of, honestly, the strongest cards in 2v2, and I think it hasn't been banned because both teams want it in their decks.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise it gets very difficult how you get through, as you said, getting that direct damage, so important. But more important now for Misfits is taking things back here in 1v1, having lost both games in 2v2. And at 1-5, feeling a little better, but 2-5 would feel oh so much better than that. Let's see what they can do here in 1v1.
There are more than 7 billion people on planet Earth. Out of all of them, Flobby and Jose LC are 2 of the best at the game of Clash Royale. And we get to see them battle right now. Aren't we lucky? It's time for the 1v1 showdown.
Mano y mano, head-to-head. Here it comes, the 1v1 set. Jose LC facing off against Flobby. And both of these players definitely have competitive experience, although Flobby has had a bit more success here at CRL.
Yeah, neither of them have played much head-to-head play in CRL. Jose LC obviously coming out for Misfits, wanting to really establish himself on their team and kind of figure his best position for them in the lineup. And then Flobby on the other side, talking to SK before the match, switching up the Matt 01 usually being their 1v1 specialist, them flipping it up, probably trying to keep Misfits on their toes, because I'm sure Misfits was gaming for Matt.
And our ban cards here, Fireball and Inferno Dragon.
Yep, pretty standard here in CRL. 2 cards that are very effective, cleaning up Royal Hogs. You got the Inferno there for cleaning up Lava Hounds and Golems. So I'm curious to see what decks they put together.
Very interesting. 2 top European players, of course, Flobby appearing for CR Nations on behalf of Germany. Jose LC, one of the top 10 players in Spain. So who here is going to represent not just their team, but also their country in this 1v1 set? Flobby for SK at the top of your screen, the Spaniard Jose LC at the bottom. And while he's had some difficulty here in CRL, he's a 7-year martial artist, and that's one thing to say about martial arts. It's a place where you learn by losing. Every time you get defeated, you come back and you figure out how to make a change. And I wonder if that mentality will apply for him here in CRL.
Yeah, and you know, you and I both having martial arts backgrounds, I think it teaches a lot of discipline as well, Rich.
Discipline's so critical. Those of you who have been following some of the teams, you've seen some of them came out training hard from the get-go. Some of them have sort of learned that they need to train so much harder because the guys across from them are putting in so much work.
Yeah, looking like maybe a P.E.K.K.A. Three Musketeers deck here coming from Jose. And Rich, to touch on that, speaking with SK before the match, they were saying that they actually have found they've had to study or practice so much more in their 1v1 than originally anticipated, because they figured all their own individual skill sets would kind of carry them in 1v1 and they'd only focused on 2v2. Now here in week 5, they're realizing that their weakest position is 1v1.
Well, you know, one of the big challenges that a lot of people are facing here is realizing that with so much study and so much effort, remember, so many of these teams have analyst after analyst, coach, manager. Deck variance has become so critical, and a lot of guys have gotten by in the past with a fairly medium to small deck pool. And now they're seeing that the people who have a 30, 40 deck pool, those are the guys who are really standing out.
And SK even spoke on that as well, saying that they all need to have at least 5 decks that they are all masters of that aren't common meta decks.
So as we get closer to double Elixir time, a slight lead for the German Flobby. So far, playing some fantastic defense, not much damage on either one of his towers.
And you got to think that Flobby's got a P.E.K.K.A. in his hand. He'll probably drop it here. Now he's going to use the Royal Ghost to clean up that battle ram.
The battle ram, and there you go, the little support from the log, so does not get the tower, the charge damage, but still a pretty significant hit there from the Barbarian.
I'm really thinking P.E.K.K.A. or maybe Mega Knight in case he was worried about Jose running those Royal Hogs, and there's the P.E.K.K.A.
So we do get that final big card. P.E.K.K.A.s will meet fairly close to the bridge on the left-hand side. And we have not seen Jose LC's last card, but there, as you called it earlier, Andrew, with the Three Musketeers.
And the interesting thing here, I was going to say before the Three Musketeers were dropped, was that Electro was really going to make this battle of the P.E.K.K.A.s fall in his favor. However, with the Musketeers there, probably not the case. And that, ooh, so close on that connection.
You gotta wonder if that log actually helped Jose LC a little bit, moving the Musketeers behind the P.E.K.K.A. out of range of Flobby's P.E.K.K.A.
Yeah, it looked like they were going to step up in front of it. And Flobby has been making me so nervous with every single one of those log plays. He's been playing them perfectly, which is obviously what he's trying to do. But me, from a commentator's position, I'm like, it's not going to hit. And it does every single time.
Keeping the pressure on is Flobby with a slight lead on both sides, and this is a very important poison.
Yeah, that P.E.K.K.A. coming down just a hair too late. You think maybe Jose should have used a different card to clean it up. Not being able to play Goblin Gang, though, because of the poison. Really great gamesmanship by Flobby.
Well, Flobby looking like he's recognizing that there aren't a ton of ground answers here. You know, P.E.K.K.A. is so expensive and so slow. The Goblin Gang cleaned up by those poisons. Not a lot of ways to stop this really aggressive spam attack.
Yeah, and that P.E.K.K.A. coming back to the tower. This is definitely going to be Flobby's first game here. Really well played by Jose, and as you can see, if he just had maybe 10 more seconds, he would have been able to tie it up. But just outplayed by a hair. Flobby taking game number 1.
Flobby, kind of known as the house cook for SK Gaming, continuously making barbecue that he's learned from his dad. And here you go, barbecuing his opponent, putting the poison down and burning that tower into a place where it can go down.
Chef Flobby bringing it out in game number 1 here. Jose, like we said, not a ton of heads-up or head-to-head competitive play here in CRL, and definitely that 1v1 set, you've got to feel the pressure, you know, knowing that they lost their 2v2. It's all on his shoulders to push this to King of the Hill.
Well, but does not count out Jose LC from his 1v1 head-to-head experience, of course. Number 4 at the Mobile Challenge in Barcelona, Liga Chispita champion as well. So he does know how to play. That there's a reason why he's here at CRL. And the question now is, can he make those adjustments? Can he learn from that loss like a martial artist and come back here in game number 2?
All right, and as you said, Flobby as well has had a lot of experience in competitive play outside of CRL, getting second at Gamergy, beating Sergio Ramos, beating Pompeo, but of course losing to Team Liquid's Surgical Goblin.
Of course, we will see Surgical Goblin later today as Liquid takes off against Team Queso, but right now Flobby 1 game win away from making a clean sweep here for SK. And this being the 7th game for both teams, reaching that midway point, you know SK Gaming wants to go into the halfway point of the season with a winning record of 4-3. And this is an important moment for Misfits because dropping to 1-6 at the halfway point would make them nearly need to win out to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's never a position you want to be in, obviously, especially midway through the season, realizing that you've got no cushion, you've got no comfortability. It makes every single match that much more intense, and you feel the pressure doubling down on you.
So out to a slight lead is Jose LC, not picking up that Royal Ghost, so being forced to spend a little more Elixir here, and the damage is done down to 872 on the left-hand side.
Yeah, now we're going to see if that one small misplay ends up being the swing of the game, being the biggest play of the game.
So split Rascals, now putting pressure on the right-hand side. Flobby has to feel pretty confident about what's happening on the left-hand side of the board.
Yeah, and if Flobby can afford to, he's going to want to keep splitting those Rascals just to not give too much log value to Jose.
And there we see the Three Musketeers, this Royal Hogs Three Musketeers deck, so popular, not just here in CRL, but it's making a ton of appearances on the Grand Challenge as well.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it's got to be a big spell in Flobby's hand, most likely a poison, and there it is coming down on those Musketeers. So a lot of answers for Flobby against the deck that Jose is running.
Although that one Musketeer not picking up enough on that left-hand side, so we'll see if in the final minute in this double Elixir time, getting down to 992 puts him in a bad position.
Jose does have more splash damage responses, however, and there's the Inferno, or the Ice Golem right where he wanted.
The Hunter doing double duty will get taken out by the second Magic Archer.
And dropping those Musketeers in the back, that's going to be a lot to clean up right up front with not a lot of Elixir to do it.
So the Royal Ghost trying to help the Musketeer on the left-hand side, but now down to under 300.
Yep. So we are in spell cycle range for Flobby, and you know Flobby recognizes that.
And that's a big moment for Flobby, taking advantage of what you knew was 9 Elixir spent all the way in the back, getting on tower. So now it's about playing defense, but again, huge play here, down to 436.
Oh, and getting that Royal Ghost just in time was Flobby, and now this could be the game. Both guys, we've seen this, the Royal Hog rush at the very end, and it looks like Flobby's just going to barely beat him there for the sweep. Wow.
The German Golem specialist switching things up, instead going with the Royal Hog deck, and it pays off. Now here in 1v1 taking a clean sweep, and that is 4 games back to back to back to back for SK as they move themselves one step closer to playoff contention.
Yeah, SK taking the 2v2 and the 1v1. Jose's very first venture into the 1v1 sets in CRL, not paying off for him, but as you can see, SK, Loai, Morton, Flobby, and Matt01 feeling great about today's performance.
Well, you see it's kind of crazy with the run that Matt01 has been on, kind of benching him for this game, putting him in a situation where, you know, break glass in case of emergency in King of the Hill, and you go, what are you doing there? But then Flobby, of course, a total professional, taking care of business, and this was that big missed ice golem pull that changed everything.
And it ends up being the play of the game, right? Because they're in a tower rush here at the end with their Royal Hogs. If he'd gotten that damage back earlier on by just playing that ice golem a second earlier, he would have won that game and maybe been able to take the match for Misfits.
At least been in a very solid position because we saw that tower, that attempted tower run you were just talking about with the Hogs. So it comes down to one big play, one big miss, but Flobby, again, so talented, takes advantage, sees he's in the lead, pressures it, and secures this thing for SK Gaming. And he is standing by right now with our colleague, Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. Flobby, so congrats on your 1v1 debut, taking home a W, and a clean sweep at that. So tell me, now you are 4-3, sitting pretty in the standings. What does this mean for your team?
Yes, I mean, it's a solid half. We could have done like some things better, so we could have like went 7-0, of course. But I mean, I'm really happy like that we closed out like positive for the first half. So yeah, and let's see what the second half will happen.
Yeah. Feeling good. Now I have to say, it looked like you guys were in control the entire time, that entire match. Were you feeling nervous at all?
Of course, like you're always a bit nervous, but I mean, we practiced a lot, so I was like, I was comfortable to play, and yeah, it worked out.
Confident, and it worked. Great win. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. Flobby taking such great advantage of the openings his opponent gave them. And let's go to another replay of a key moment here. It was that 3 Musketeers play in the back.
Yeah, interesting decision here by Jose. You got to recognize that your opponent's win condition is in cycle, is in hand, and dropping 9 Elixir in the back, you're not doing yourself any favors. I don't know if you needed to drop them a little higher up, maybe split 2 to the left and just drop them right at the river, but that was just such a huge opening. Flobby recognized it and capitalized on it.
Little decisions make all the difference. The difference is made here. Let's take a look at those standings. It's SK Gaming moving to 4-3.
Yes, and that one victory for SK now puts them tied at second place with G2 Esports, Allegiance, and Team Dignitas. However, Team Queso still at the very top, 6-0. Misfits now at the bottom, 1-6, remaining at the bottom. And now, as you said before, they might be in a position to have to win out the rest of this season.
Talking about being 6-0, up next we have a battle that might have some bad blood between it. We have Team Liquid with Surgical Goblin and some players who have a long-time relationship, maybe some former Queso players there, going up against the leaders in the European region.
Ladies and germs, this next one is truly the main event. A Team Liquid team desperate to dig out of a slump against the cheesy ones, the undefeated, #1 ranked Team Queso.
Surgical Goblin, Diego B, both former Team Queso players who kind of shockingly left to start their own super team.
Yeah, the relentless recruiter in Surgical Goblin picking up Azili's as well right before he signed his contract with Team Queso. And Team Queso on the other side, before the season started, a lot of RIP Queso hashtags being thrown around on Twitter, and these guys have done everything but that.
A clean sweep in our first match today, SK Gaming taking it all the way to the hill.
Yeah.
But here we go. I don't think we're going to see a sweep in this one. 2 teams that know each other very well in Team Queso, and the split off with Team Liquid.
Yeah, if you look at Team Queso's lineup here, we got Benihus, Saint Belican, Kuchiku, and Sokin coming off of a very, very close last match to stay perfect. And then, of course, we've got Team Liquid, Surgical Goblin, Diego B, Azili's, and Buffmac, who is now making an appearance in 2v2 in his last match, wondering if they finally found that duo for Team Liquid.
And of course, a lot to prove emotionally for both squads. Again, Queso looking to show that they are fine without 3 of the best players in the world. Yeah. Across from that, Team Liquid really wanting to prove that their gamble, that the move they've made is going to pay off. And standing by the mastermind of that idea, Christy St. John has Surgical Goblin.
Thanks, guys. Surgical Goblin, Team Queso, of course, your old team, now undefeated at the top of the standings. I mean, is that a tough pill to swallow?
Not really. I mean, they're an amazing team. Like, their roster is really good. So, I mean, I kind of expected them to do really well.
And there's a lot of love. I mean, that tunnel, it looks like you guys are having a ton of fun. Tell me, how did you tell the rest of your team to strategize against your old team?
I mean, this format is different, of course. Like, in the past, there was never 2 versus 2 in competitions. So in that way, like, we can't really prepare. But for the 1 versus 1s, like, of course, like, I know, for example, what they used to play. Like, usually, like, in high-pressure situations. But anything can happen with this format, to be honest.
Anything can happen. We'll see today. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. The mental game's going to be a big part of this. St. Bellican getting word from their coach. He's in the lineup today to be part of that because he's so mentally strong, good at making that kind of stuff happen. And that preparation's so key. How do you focus in this type of situation? Let's go inside the war rooms.
All right, guys. Recently, we've been losing a lot of just unfortunate, unlucky things. But let's not focus on the things that we can't control, right? Let's just focus on things that we can. We prepared a lot. We have good bands. We made really good decks for those bands. Let's just focus game by game. First 2v2, then the 1v1. We got this. Let's not let the little things get to us. Let's just stay focused. We got this. We all know that we can do this. Let's just get out there and let's take this W. Let's go Liquid on 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's go Liquid!
Bueno, chicos, ya sabemos los bans. 2 para 2. Soaking Benny, preparadísimo. Bueno, van de Poison y Lápida. Lo estuvimos preparando.
Hemos estado entrenando muchísimo. Yo creo que vamos muy bien.
¿Con qué podemos ir? ¿Qué creen?
El príncipe con el ban de Lápida está rotísimo.
Yo creo que el raid está muy bien.
Sí, con el veneno, las cosas después de veneno.
Me gusta muchísimo. Yo creo que
vamos a sacar muchísimo valor.
Lo practicamos y son cartas que sabemos usar muy bien. Después, one by one, Belly. Vans Balloon and Megamiña versus Asilis. You know him?
Yep.
You training a lot? You are prepared?
I'm confident of what I'm going to use.
Okay. So, we are ready?
Yeah.
What do you think is the best to play versus him?
I think that using Fireball will be good against him.
Okay.
Because he might use Royal Hoggies.
Yes, nice. I like it. So, we are ready? Let's go, guys.
Let's go, guys. Let's do it. Un pasito el 7-0, chavales.
1, 2, 3.
¡Queso!
The old saying goes, it takes two to tango. Well, these duos don't dance, but they do duel. Diego B and Buffmac, Soaking and Bennyhoo. Show us your moves on the battlefield.
Not just respect, but a lot of love between these teams. Of course, with Diego B being a former member of Team Queso. A lot of love there for Soaking and Bennyhoo.
Yeah, you really enjoy seeing these teams, despite maybe some inter-league rivalries, showing great sportsmanship today. And you've got Buffmac and Diego B coming out. Like I said, I believe this could be their best 2v2 combo. Now, maybe not the best record between the two of them. However, I know the communication is there, and that's the most important. Their opponents, Bennyhoo and Soaking, very, very successful in 2v2. They have such an incredible team, so many different combinations. We've heard them say many times before, we haven't even shown you our best.
And for our card bans today, Poison and one of the most played, highest play rates in the entire game here at CRL, Tombstone now off the board.
Well, we find that you don't really need a super strong defensive building to take down the tanks. You more so need a building to pull them to the center. And Tombstone being so cheap, kiting those golems, or excuse me, bringing in those golems, bringing in the Royal Hogs, it's a really, really great ban.
So very interesting questions. What kind of stuff does Team Queso have in store for some of their former teammates? 2v2 kicking off right now. Let's go. Team Queso, Soaking, and Bennyhoo at the top of your screen. Buffmac and Diego B representing Liquid at the bottom.
And you know, Rich, I know everyone in the building is thinking the exact same thing. Despite the record of Team Liquid, this does feel like the two powerhouses of the EU finally coming to face each other. I am really excited right now.
It's definitely an exciting matchup, not the records we expected at this stage of the season.
Yeah, totally. And you know, Liquid has talked a lot about how much they've struggled with 2v2, saying that they've got some of the best, and if not the best, 1v1 competitors in the world on their squad. 2v2 really being their Achilles heel here in CRL.
We've seen that for a couple of teams, of course, Cloud9 finally getting 2v2 together in the North American region, but you know, they've had a little more success in the head-to-head spots, whereas, you know, part of being such great players is also being very visible, and you ought to wonder if some of these 1v1 and head-to-head sets, if other teams have been really focused and knowledgeable and planning on how they face off against Azelis and Diego and Surgical Goblin.
Well, of course. I mean, these, like you said, you know, these are some of the most famous players in the world. There's so much game tape, if you will, on all of these guys to be able to game and strategize against them and play against their comfort decks and against counter decks. It's a really interesting position to be in for Team Liquid, having such a limelight shined on their roster.
So Queso opting for the Furnace as a way to stop or pull the Golem to the middle, a little more expensive option.
And this is a massive push by Liquid. I don't know how Queso's going to stop it. That Inferno Dragon isn't getting on the Golem. The Golem's completely healthy. This is huge. A lot of misplayed, misallocated Elixir early on defensively for Team Queso.
And Queso looks like they know it. Still trying to mount a defense, but we are potentially in 3-crown territory now as we move into the final minute. Although alternatively, you might see Buffmac and Diego B just play it safe and defend here as we go into double Elixir.
Totally, and you look at the actual Elixir counts here right before that double Elixir kicked in. Team Liquid in a massive Elixir advantage, now creating their left-hand lane push and still having tons of answers in the right lane to that Golem and Witch push, double Witch.
An important thing to remember is that Team Queso was operating, or sorry, Team Liquid for most of the season operating without an analyst, and they finally brought one in very recently, earlier this week. And you gotta wonder if maybe that's impacting how they're approaching 2v2.
Yeah, if anything, Rich, it just takes a lot of pressure off the players. Wow, nice counter push here from Team Queso, almost taking that tower. It takes a little bit of weight off the players' shoulders, Rich. They get to just focus on one thing and one thing only, and that is their gameplay and what they need to improve.
Down to only 13 seconds here. Queso needs to start spell cycling on the right-hand side if they're going to have a shot. There they go. Lightning Fireball. So we are into our sudden death overtime. It is still Liquid out to the lead.
And there's a lot of Elixir just spent to take down that tower, so Liquid recognizing that, putting in a big push right here behind a pretty healthy Golem.
A pretty healthy Golem backed by the Fireball, and now we are in GG range. It's going to be very, very soon here while they finish it up. The rocket comes through, and there we go. It's Buffmac and Diego B picking up the game win. All they need is one more, and they'll be in the rare position of going into 1v1 with the lead.
Yeah, Team Queso here had a rough time with their Inferno Dragons, focusing on Liquid's tanks. As you see that Inferno Dragon being dropped right there, focuses on Team Liquid's Inferno Dragon, and then Bats, and then Night Witch, none of which is what they want, which is the Golem. And as you see, a very healthy Golem here, pushing, as you said earlier, into 3-count territory.
Well, then you also had the more expensive option to pull using the Furnace rather than a Tombstone. Queso themselves banning the Tombstone, so you got to wonder what went into that choice of the Furnace playing that role.
Yeah, you know, the Furnace is such a great building card. It's got pretty good health, but then obviously the Fire Spirit's doing so much damage. I get wanting to replace the Tombstone with it to maybe stop the Royal Hogs because it's a really great response to the Royal Hogs. Problem is, Team Liquid didn't play Royal Hogs, and that Furnace just did not do diligence for Team Queso.
They played Golem, and here we go. Buffmac and Diego B on the verge of setting up their teammate for success in 1v1. Will this analyst pay off? Will these strategies work? Here we go, game number 2. So a big shift here for Team Liquid for Buffmac and Diego B. Last time they were here, they played the exact same deck archetype, maybe the same deck all 3 games. They played the Royal Hog, double Miner, double Dark Goblin deck, and they went win, loss, loss. So here maybe we'll see a little more deck variance.
Yeah, but so far that is not the case from both teams here, coming out with almost what looks like the same decks, despite maybe a couple cards here and there. But you see the Furnace again, you see the Golems, you see the Inferno Dragon, and that is going to take out that Witch and get some damage on the tower.
And not worried about the Furnace and Inferno Dragon with that. There you go. So the Fireball playing its role. Interesting choice though of putting the rocket on the Witch and tower rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I think what they saw there was they just saw the great opportunity with the Witch, and then the Inferno Dragon was dropped just a hair later. The rocket, I think, was already in the air. I still like the play on taking out the Witch and getting damage on the tower. Ideally, the Inferno Dragon on the tower would have been the best play.
Well, hindsight is 20/20, and right now the vision very good on the side of Team Liquid.
Yeah, Team Liquid here putting a good push together, and you can hear Diego very, very vocal out there on the court, if you will, or at the podium, speaking to his teammate, Buffmac. And as we talked about in our match earlier today, teams are either very vocal or they only say what needs to be said. Misfits believing strictly and only talking when necessary. Liquid here obviously trying a different strategy and a lot of communication.
Picking up a lot of that Golem is that 3-card play, but now not taking care of the Musketeer on the left-hand side, so it's actually their left tower that gets into real trouble.
Yeah, now we're basically at an even game.
Not just even, Andrew, but look, both towers for Liquid below 2,000, below 1,900, and only one tower even damage for Team Queso.
great fireball there by Queso to kill that Night Witch as soon as possible. The Night Witch, to me, is the most frustrating card behind a golem.
Why is that, Andrew?
I just believe the amount of air counters, the fact that she keeps spawning bats, how high the DPS is on the bats, it's just, it can become a lot to deal with very, very quickly. And as you see right there, Team Queso not being able to deal with that push very well once again.
And the bats also potentially playing some distraction roles when you have an Inferno Dragon in the air.
Yeah, that's been happening a lot, specifically in this match. Great rocket there to clean up all the extra troops. Don't really have to worry about anything now.
So now at 472, Team Liquid really can just get a rocket on the tower and one more spell, and now at 388 within rocket range. So just waiting for that to get back in cycle, and they will have the victory here in this 2v2 set.
Yeah, you wonder when their spells are going to be coming back into cycle.
Well, they're playing very calm, and this is a big shift we've seen. Some teams trying to aggressively, rapidly cycle, and here they go. You see Bookmac and Diego B taking their time, playing smart defense, not freaking out, trying to get that rocket ready, and here we go, it pays off. And this is probably the best we've seen in 2v2 from Team Liquid.
And what a breath of relief sighed by Team Liquid, their bench, their coaches, and these two at the stand, because look, it's where they've struggled. They all do so well in 1v1. That patient play of not sending in the rocket too soon, and also earlier setup with this, you know, the tornado to bring the witches together and the fireball. Again, you've got a healthy Prince and Baby Dragon coming down the lane, another great tornado to get it all on the tower, and that is a lot of damage for Queso to deal with.
Yeah, we're seeing why Tornado has been banned so often in 2v2. Team Liquid using it to perfection to, without really too much difficulty, take both games, a clean sweep for 2v2. And again, now, Team Liquid in the rare position where 1v1 doesn't have a whole lot of pressure.
I mean, this is the position they always want to be in, to take the 2v2 set, because look, as we said many times before, Azilis, Diego B, and Surgical Goblin are three of the best head-to-head players in the entire world. They did not expect 2v2 to be as impactful as it is here at CRL, and now this is the position they always want to be in.
Lords and ladies, get real familiar with the edge of your seats, because that's where you're headed. This is the kind of 1v1 battle that lights up the chat. Azilis and Saint Belican, show us what you've got in the arena.
1v1 on its way. Saint Belican in the pressure spot up against Azilis.
Yeah, Saint Belican definitely riding high. Azilis coming out for Team Liquid, as we talked about. They have so many great players in 1v1. If they take the 2v2 set, you've got three potential guys that can bring it home in that 1v1 set. And then Saint Belican coming off of a dominating victory in King of the Hill, keeping Team Queso perfect. Coming out in 1v1, I'm sure, riding high.
Azilis has been talented in 1v1. Here, take a look at our ban cards. Balloon, and look at that, the Mega Minion.
Yeah, the Mega Minion. You've seen today with the bans that Queso have been implementing. It's to basically mess up archetypes of decks. We've seen the Tombstone and the Mega Minion fit into so many decks so effectively. Now the idea here is to take that out of play and then make your opponent play comfort decks.
So here we go. It's 1v1 Saint Belican in the big spot up against Azilis, who is 4-1 in this set.
Let's go, Azilis.
Clarify, they're 4-1 overall in games, 2-0 in 1v1 sets collectively.
Yes, and this is Saint Belican's first 1v1 set coming out, despite having great success in King of the Hill. And in 2v2. Honestly, he's 3-1 in 2v2. That's why you keep hearing Team Queso talk about we haven't even seen their best 2v2 lineup.
Well, again, Termisva and Furrier for Team Queso talking about why they were going to have Belican. A little inside information beforehand. Before we saw the lineups, they were telling me they wanted him in the 1v1 today because they knew he was mentally strong and capable of this kind of pressure.
Yeah, and he's shown before, you know, we thought maybe the pressure would get to him, but, you know, that is not the case. He's now very comfortable here at CRL, and it looks like we're seeing that Princess bait deck that we saw Adrian Piaja run originally here from Saint Belican.
Yeah, the question, are we going to see the Prince as part of that deck? Of course, those of you who follow Sir Tag out in the world, putting that deck on his top 5 most frustrating decks in the meta right now.
Yep, I saw that video, and I've lost to that deck many times in my Grand Challenges. Very, very frustrating. Great zap, and minions come in. Better Prince to clean it up to prevent even more damage that was definitely going to happen.
So fairly close here so far, although Azili's just getting little chips here and there, making his way through. Belican just, so far, the defensive answer is not stopping everything coming down the pipes.
Yeah, and we've talked about that. When you're running a Princess log bait deck, you want to mitigate as much damage and stay in as much control of the game as you can, because once double Elixir hits, once these big beatdown pushes start coming, you have softer, squishier troops. Now, the Prince is a great response, however, to the Giant.
As far as a beatdown deck construction, Andrew, we're seeing Giant and Miner. Usually you see Poison attached to that.
Yeah, you know, probably just mixing it up here. I do really like the switch lane on the barrel there, forcing Azili's to use his log on one of the two instead of cleaning up all the troops, just allowing that Rascal to get one more hit.
So we're moving into double Elixir time, and so far neither player establishing what you would call an insurmountable lead, but as you said, we have bait against beatdown. You really don't want to be behind at this stage.
Yeah, and that was a great use of the Giant to pick up the charge from the Knight, and then in turn his Knight, or excuse me, his Prince, I'm sorry, his Prince charging on St. Belican's Prince.
So a lot of troops spent on the right-hand side to pick up the Giant, and then now running into the Prince as well, who hits so hard. So in that exchange, Azili's coming out on top.
Yeah, and with Azili's having Log and Fireball and Zap, it definitely makes it a very, I mean, we call this giant triple spell, if you will. It makes it very hard for bait decks to kind of catch your opponent with no spell and cycle to respond. Even if it ends up being a negative Elixir trade with a Fireball, Azili's is still going to take the Fireball negative Elixir trade, then all the damage from the Goblin Barrel.
And this is where that Miner starts paying off. Of course, now knowing the Logs out of cycle, St. Belican playing the Goblin Barrel, getting a couple hits here. But this is where that Miner comes into play, is that even after you spend so much Elixir to defend the Giant Prince push, the Miner can still slip in the back and get that chip damage.
Right, and then for Belican, he's got only a couple responses to the Miner, and to catch it completely is going to be very tough. He's got to either hit it with the Prince, which is not the best of trade, but ideally the Goblin Barrel.
Azili's switching it up, using the Miner to counter the Princess, but still not having the Log in cycle to contend with that Goblin Barrel. And so now it's St. Belican making things much more interesting as we get deep into double Elixir time.
Yeah, and Belican's playing great defense, stopping all of these big pushes. However, Azili's is getting that chip damage in, and this minion getting on the tower is going to be a big, big play.
And now with 3 spells, Azili's has a lot of tools to close this thing out. Just needs to play some solid, smart defense here on the left.
Yes, recognizing the far barrel, seeing that it was higher up in the sky. And yeah, Rich, you're totally right. We've seen many, many times where a player sees that they've got the spells, they've got the damage, but all of a sudden they are left wanting with either Elixir, Cycle, or defense, and they end up losing the game by less than 100 HP because they overcommitted.
So do you expect to see Belican keep the pressure on the left-hand lane right now?
Yeah, I think he's going to keep the pressure on the left-hand lane, keep chipping away at that. He's got a 600 damage lead on it. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to switch lanes and also to go right into that giant push that Azili's just keep trying to amount.
And the Fireball does not pick up the last minion, but does do a little bit of damage. Do you think St. Belican's #1 concern is this, keeping the Fireball off the tower?
Wow, and that is a very aggressive Miner Fireball that is going to pay off for Azili's. Recognizing the only response in Belican's hand for that was most likely going to be the Rascals. Really a great predictive play by one of the best in the world.
Down at that point, so difficult for Belican to make choices because, you know, you've said before, having a HP deficit at that position, so difficult for a bait player, and now he pretty much had to play perfectly to keep it off his tower. Couldn't get it all the way through. Azili's capitalizing, and now 1 game away for a sweep for Team Liquid, and a very important sweep right now.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about big wins in this league, and you see Complexity finally taking their very first loss over in North America. Could this be the day that Queso is now no longer perfect, and we no longer have an undefeated team in CRL?
Very critical moment here for Team Liquid. Azili's trying to carry his team to the victory. A lot riding on this next game here for both squads. Of course, Team Queso in a great position. A loss today would not be anywhere near end of the world, with really only needing probably 2 more wins to be in that playoff spot. But for Team Liquid, this game could be the biggest game win of their season because a victory right now would put them at 3-4. And with 4 teams tied for second at 4-3, they would now be in striking distance of those playoff spots.
Yeah, and Liquid here talking about before the match not being able to shine in the way that they want because there's so much weight on this 2v2 set. Now taking the first set in 2v2, going into 1v1, this is what they say they want every single match, and they think once they get to playoffs, this is going to be a Team Liquid victory going to World Finals. That's what they think going into playoffs.
So a potential mirror match developing here between St. Pelican and Azelis.
Yeah, and Azelis recognizing that, Pelican as well, wondering exactly how they're going to take advantage of their opponent. Remember, in mirror matches, you know, it's always like, what's the worst thing that could happen to me right now? I'm going to do that to my opponent.
You know, there's a lot of different opinions on a mirror match. Some people think that a mirror match is the true test of skill. Some people say that a mirror match is more just about who has more practice with the mirror.
Yeah, and as you can see right now, these guys playing very, very similar games. However, Azelis just slightly on top. That battle ram had to come down or that bandit would have dashed.
We are seeing a big moment here. This defense could be critical.
Ooh, and that Electro Wiz coming down on top of that battle ram is not going to pay off for Azelis, and he recognizes it right there.
He knows exactly what just happened. So now as we move into double Elixir time, it is St. Pelican with a fairly significant lead of about 701 on the left-hand towers.
Yeah. Always tough to decide, sometimes easier than others, whether I should drop the Elixir Wixard far away and use its stun capabilities and the damage, or whether you need that burst damage from the drop. And right there, Azelis probably making the wrong decision.
Now, what do you think, Andrew, about both of these teams, both of these players using their P.E.K.K.A.s on their own rather than as a specific defensive response?
Knowing that they're running against mirror matches, I think what they're trying to do is control the game by forcing your opponent to play Elixir down the lane that you want to focus on. However, you know, Azelis now in an odd position of both towers being low enough. Pelican doing a great job of splitting the damage, and now it looks like Azelis, okay, I was going to say, I don't think he wants to sacrifice that tower. It doesn't seem like a good play.
But it might end up happening. There you go.
Wow.
The Electro Wizard giving just enough room for the P.E.K.K.A. to get tower. And St. Pelican, now a little bit of BM here as the game wraps up.
They're going back and forth. You love it.
You talk about that mental strength, and St. Pelican now going, hey, you think you're going to take this thing? We are Team Queso, and we want to keep that 0 on our loss column.
I am in complete support of BMing and the gamesmanship. Look, this is the biggest stage that you can play on. If you've got abilities to use, if you've got tools up your sleeve, you know you can get in your opponent's head, then do it. And you see right here in the very beginning, Azelis misplaying that Electro Wizard with the 2 Barbarians and the Royal Ghost. It's just a lot of direct damage for it to take, not being able to stun them, and Pelican really capitalizing on that.
Pelican taking advantage in the mirror match has to feel good. And again, this, to remind you one more time, this is why he's in this spot. He's mentally strong, he's prepared, and he knows how to play those mind games. And you got to wonder now, might Azelis be on tilt against the young Brit?
I think you could see it in his face, the definite frustration after saying good game and the well played and kind of putting his phone down, the BMing coming up, he picked his phone back up. Oh, tensions are high here.
And now maybe the bad blood's starting to pull out a little bit.
I feel like you can see the frustration on Azelis' face, and he drops in with the spamming of the BMs. You can tell he did not like that. And then Pelican on the other side, you wonder, is he like, yep, I got to him.
Well, what felt like a potential victory lap and coming out party for Team Liquid now is a tougher spot because, of course, the win here in this game by Team Queso would send them to King of the Hill, a place where Team Liquid has shockingly struggled a bit.
Yeah, shockingly, despite how well they are at head-to-head play, it's not the same as in most tournaments where you get 3 games or 5 games to understand your opponent and adjust. You get one chance, and if you got a bad matchup or you make a mistake, that's it.
And a player who starts rolling, getting in rhythm, can now go and run through your entire squad. And some people have talked about how valuable that is. Like, you win one, you're right back in, and everyone playing at home. You've gone both ways. You've gone on tilt where you've lost, oh my gosh, how did I lose 5 games in a row? my trophies are gone, I hate everything. You've also gone on runs where you're like, I am the next god of this game.
Right, I'm going pro, CRL Season 2. And it's pro plays like that by Azili's, keeping that princess alive for so long. Goblin Gang, Ice Golem, everything coming down to protect the princess saved that tower from an insane amount of damage.
So St. Pelican going with what worked last time. Azili's changing it up with a mixed archetype, a lot of spells, a lot of small cards out there to bait some of those spells and make room for those Royal Hogs.
Yeah, we've seen this like Princess Mini P.E.K.K.A. regular Hog deck run before in tournament play, in competitive play on ladder, and this new rendition with the Royal Hogs has been very effective.
So a reminder, Mega Minion and Balloon, the ban cards, we have seen very little aerial play here. You see minions, you see bats, mostly used as defensive responses here as opposed to support.
Well, yeah, in most all Lava Loon decks, you've usually got a Mega Minion in there, and despite it only being one card being banned, it really is a very synergistic card.
So a lot of inexpensive responses there, although quite a bit spent on the P.E.K.K.A. on the right-hand side. So now as we're in double Elixir time, Azili's does have the advantage, but St. Pelican still playing well.
Interesting use of the bats there instead of maybe the Mini P.E.K.K.A. Could have been out of cycle. There it is coming back in.
And the Mini P.E.K.K.A. now also taking some damage for that tower, keeping the minions off. So right now, with the split hogs coming down again, Azili's looking like he has this match under control.
Yeah, and a nice split push there, like you said, and not having the tombstone there, really capitalizing on it. You think Queso would have maybe thought that they could see or excuse me, not having Mega Minion, you thought they could see maybe this Royal Hog coming out. They'd maybe need St. Pelican with like a little more splash damage.
Pelican has had so much difficulty getting to the tower, and now we see a Royal Hog push. So what does he have defensively on this left-hand side? This could be the push that makes it kind of insurmountable to get back into it. Although the P.E.K.K.A., if she gets one swing, does not get it. And I think really we have to say the Princess so far has been the MVP for Azili's.
Yeah, he's been playing it so well. And we've seen here that when not utilized correctly, she becomes a non-factor. But in matches, or excuse me, games like this, she has done so much for Azili's, really being, like you said, the MVP and the biggest game-changing card.
But if that Bandit gets charged, now things starting to get a little bit tighter here on the left-hand side. So Azili's has to be careful. Down to 694. He is in danger. Yes, he has the lead on both sides, but that can change in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and only having a few ground responses, it has got to be easier for Pelican to strategize the cycle of Azili's and know when to go all in. However,
that's going to be it.
It's going to be it. And Team Liquid with the sweep over, or not
the full sweep,
but the set sweep over Queso. No King of the Hill, no longer perfect.
Well, you see the difference in the way Azili's was able to play. I mean, he, of course, has been pretty solid in 1v1 with now 3 set wins and an overall record of 6-2 in games. But, you know, the lack of pressure there in 1v1 once you have that 2v2 set, and so many squads have talked about the importance of taking 2v2 seriously. Liquid does it here and takes the victory.
Yeah, Buffmac and Diego B really setting it off, setting the rhythm for their Team Liquid here. Surgical Goblin not even having to step up to the podium, and Azili's great job in 1v1, playing very calm, capitalizing, and now Queso is no longer perfect, and Liquid is very, very close to being in those top spots.
Might be the single most important victory for Team Liquid all season. And here we look at some of this replay, and it just, there wasn't a response to Royal Hogs that Pelican had in his hand.
Absolutely, and you see Azili's with the Mini P.E.K.K.A. and the Princess combined together. Just a lot of damage, not as much Elixir as a Mama P.E.K.K.A. costs, but still creating a counter push.
You wonder if from an analysis standpoint, bringing that analyst in, if they kind of had the idea that Pelican likes to repeat decks, you know, if that's a possibility. You know, in this case, keeping it the exact same, a Mega Knight there instead of a P.E.K.K.A. would have possibly changed the entire tenor of that game.
Absolutely, and you know, you're right, Pelican has been known to run decks back-to-back before as sort of his strategy. Maybe Liquid saw that and thought, maybe he's going to run it again. I think I know exactly what he's going to hate playing against, and Azili's, again, does a great job for Team Liquid.
Again, such a critical victory here, keeping them in contention. A loss would have been potentially devastating, so we might look back later in the season seeing this as the swing point for Team Liquid. And a big part of that, of course, is the 1v1 play of Azili's coming back after that second game that was probably maybe a bit disheartening and playing lights out in game number 3. He is right now with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. Ooh, so much energy. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really, really good with this victory.
And how that game too, I mean, you had to take that loss, not only take that loss, but take those BMs, a hard pill to swallow, and come back and keep your calm to take game 3. How did you do that?
It's a friend. I don't have problem with BM in this case. It's just for fun. It's in the game. I accept it. I BM2 on the first game, I think. And I just come back in the game, stay focused on my match, and play the last match.
It's just for fun, but that win was very, very serious. And I have to talk about game 3. That matchup was tough. You did an amazing job defending your princess. Take me through the roller coaster of that game. I mean, did you know you were going to win?
Really, I don't think I'm gonna win in this game because you have so much things for pressure, like the bandit, the ghost, the battle ram. He had so much things. And I just focus on my game, try to put a lot of princess on the board for take advantage of my opponents, and just win.
You did an amazing job defending your princess. Great game, great win. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. A big win in a big spot for Team Liquid. As we said before, this might be the turning point, the most important spot, as they don't move up the standings, but get to a much better position anyway.
Yeah, and we look at the European standings here. No longer a perfect Team Queso and a surging Team Liquid here now within striking distance, as you said. Honestly, in a couple games, they could be in second place.
Very, very easy, very possible. Look at all those 4 and 3s in the middle. And now we really truly are at the midway point. The first 7 games down for almost all our squads. 7 more to go. A lot of rematches coming up in the second half. And you can follow all the action by hitting subscribe on the Clash Royale Esports YouTube page. Don't forget to touch that little bell. Ring the bell for all your notifications. Of course, the esports.clashroyale.com. And don't forget the Clash Royale Esports tab in your app at home. We will be back Saturday, September 22nd at 9 p.m. Central European time with more EU action for Andrew Guy. I'm Rich Slayton. We'll see you Saturday back here in the arena.
Bye.
Flaming fireballs, that was fun. Talk about top-tier talent. These guys are rewriting the book. The Elixir is their ink, and the arena is their page. We are seeing CRL history being written spell by spell and zap by electrifying zap. I mean, this is riveting stuff, guys. As your king, I truly care about you. And I have one piece of heartfelt advice. Subscribe to the Clash Royale Esports channel and don't miss a match. You can even turn on notifications so that they'll tell you when the cannons are about to fire. Oh, and remember, please always, and I mean always, look both ways before crossing the bridge.